be a longer time for all of this?
I don't think so, Diane. I think that it's not enough time for me. I mean, I feel that between trying to say goodbye to all my friends and trying to get everything organized and trying to get packed and all of that and trying for Bill to do all that he needs to do, it is not enough time. But for the country, it doesn't need to be any longer. It needs to come to an end. You know, and we have to get on that, plane and fly away, which is hard for us.
You know, it's so hard for those of us who think of the presidency as an institution to realize that actual people are going to be unpacking for the next days and fighting over the sock drawer and who gets to put them on top and not. But that's what you're going to have to do.
That is, well, what happens, and I learned this when I visited Mrs. Bush, is that our government changes at, I think, 12:01 or something on January the 20th, and as is fully appropriate, we wait until the very last minute to make that transfer of power. And so the Bushes will be moved out exactly at that time, and our things will begin to move in. But then we expect we'll spend the next couple of weeks trying to find everything and, tripping over boxes and looking for the thing we knew that we wanted to have in this room and can't locate anymore.
Did Mrs. Bush give you any advice about all of this?
Oh, she said that I would love living in the White House because the people who were there were so wonderful and wanting to make that house, which is America's house, just the very best place it could be. And she said have some fun. And, she was just so gracious. I really enjoyed my time with her, but I've always liked her and had a good time with her.
What about the First Lady phrase? What's going to happen with that phrase?
It's a historic phrase with a lot of meaning, and a lot of wonderful women have held that position. I think it's something that I'm really looking forward to. I like that part of the role. I mean,
You don't mind the phrase?
Oh, no. But what I really feel, and this really goes back to the very beginning of our country, and one of the reasons Bill's starting at Monticello is, I think the most wonderful thing you can be called is citizen.
Will you, in effect, announce an agenda of your own?
No, it'll be what I've done here, which is to support the agenda that Bill is putting forward, which I think is the right agenda. I mean, what we need to do for children and families in this country is what he's outlined. And what I want to do is what I've done here to try to play a role in making that happen, whether it's in immunizing children or providing better health care or improving schools so that all children do have the best education available to them, or making some of these systems that government runs, like the foster care system, work for people instead of causing problems.
What about these cabinet meetings? Are you going to sit in the cabinet meetings? And to the people who say, well, should Mrs. Christopher sit in the State Department meetings then?
I'm going to do what my husband asked me to do on these issues.
So you may sit in or may not?
It depends upon what he decides.
Do you think it is tricky, though? Do you think it's a delicate thing to do? Eleanor Roosevelt had trouble with it.
Yes, she did.
Is it a tricky passage?
Well, I think it is because our society is going through a tricky passage about men's and women's roles and appropriate partnerships between husbands and wives. And I've said many times in the last year that what is being played out in the homes and workplaces of America is now being played out in the White House. So it is tricky because we're all moving through an uncharted terrain, but I feel very positive about that.
Well, I have to tell you, if the issue is what is best for the American people, it's not tricky at all for me. It's easy. In all these years that Hillary and I worked together on education issues, for children's issues here, she was practicing law and earning most of the money for our family. Now she's not going to do that anymore. She has more time, more energy, and more ability. And I know some of it may be tricky, but I would be derelict in my responsibility to the people of this country if I didn't have someone of her ability and character and devotion working on things that we all care about.
As nearly everyone knows, the Clintons have a daughter, Chelsea. Her father said yesterday she's not that into politics right now, would like to have a private life. She's going to be attending a private school, Sidwell Friends in Washington, and it's caused some controversy. They discuss that next.
Still ahead, more from the Clintons. Why they decided to send Chelsea to private school.
Were the District of Columbia schools just not good enough?
And how they felt the day after he was elected.
I heard that you laughed the first morning, that you looked at each
I
other.
did. That's what happened. I woke up and I turned around and looked at her, and she looked at me, and I just broke out laughing, and she did too. That was our first conversation about this.
When prime time continues.
Something interesting happened in Little Rock today, one of those benchmarks in any transition. Even as the president-elect's poll numbers are still soaring out in the country, at a press conference, reporters got testy and pressed him on the question of keeping his word. Not long ago, he announced that the budget deficit was now bigger than he had been told and might temper some of the bold programs he promised in the campaign. And then today, his new policy on Haitian refugees looked decidedly like the old policy of George Bush. Bill Clinton may have been governor, but the press today gave him a preview of the presidency and a press corps which will hold his feet to the fire on every word he says.
I really can't get into the details.
There's no concrete decision on when.
You shouldn't assume anything more than I'm saying, which is we've...
For more than 2 months, 200 press have been watching every move in Little Rock. And judging by today's press conference, the traditional media honeymoon seems already on the wane.
No, nobody asked me about normalization of relations.
Doesn't that break one of your campaign promises?
You owe President Bush an apology.
The American people would think I was foolish if I said I will not respond to changing circumstances.
Questions about credibility and policy. Whether the bigger budget deficit will torpedo campaign promises, like the middle-class tax cut and programs to create jobs. What do you want to say tonight to the person sitting at home who went out and voted for you, expecting that right after inauguration, you were going to have something to offer on jobs?
That I will.
What will it be?
I will offer a program consistent with what I said in the campaign, that will change the whole focus of the way the national government has been operating.
Because there has been the clear impression this week that all the things you wanted to do in the first 100 days, and you said you wanted a blazing first 100 days, that you've had to retrench, you've had to scale back.
Well, we're still going to have an investment program for jobs, though. What I've got to try to do is find the best possible way to bring the deficit down over 4 years and to increase investment so we can get jobs and incomes up.
Does this mean you're going to be able to stick by the $20 to $30 billion investment in infrastructure that was supposed to create jobs in the short term?
I think we'll be able to do that. I think we'll be able to stick by our investment program over the next 4 years, just about the way I outlined it. It's going to be tougher now. We'll have to cut more other things if we do it.
Further decreases in the defense budget?
Maybe some, but, you know, we've got to be careful with that because of all the questions you asked me earlier in the interview. You know, the United States, there's one thing I've learned just since this election, talking to these other leaders around the world. There is no other world leader today in a political sense. And so many people have said we're looking to you for leadership to help us. But there are limits to how much you can cut defense. I'm going to cut it more than President Bush would have cut it, but I'm not going to cut it as much as some people would like to see it cut.
And more than the $60 billion that you had talked about?
No, I think we're still in that range. I think we're going to have to be more aggressive in some other areas.
In the meantime, the president-to-be is also taking some flack on his new attorney general, his commerce secretary. That cabinet designed to look like America, but 13 lawyers in the cabinet. Sorry about that?
Yeah, I didn't think to ask them. If I'd asked them, I might have scratched some of them. But if you'll look at them, most of them who have law degrees also did other things. I mean, a lot of them got to the cabinet not because they had law degrees, but because of their work in other areas of American life.
And while reporters were turning up the heat, just this week...
Crazy. I'm crazy for feeling so...
Someone is back, Ross Perot. You glad?
Did he ever go away? He's doing about what I thought he would do, and I think that's okay. You know, this is a big country, and it can accommodate a wide variety of views, and I frankly hope that Ross Perot will remind people who supported him and people in the Congress that we need some political reform. I'm going to try to pass campaign finance reform. I'm going to try to pass some lobbying reform. I've already taken steps on my own to try to reduce the influence of lobbying impulses in my own administration, far exceeding anything any other president has done. But I need some legislation out of the Congress, and I'd like to have Mr. Perot's support in passing that.
Mr. Perot has said that all the lobbyists came out of the forest, and the Wall Street Journal has been keeping a kind of list of the hovering around this campaign, and that they're all there, including the Commerce Secretary, back in places which at least don't even send the symbolic message yet that they can be fought off.
Well, we'll just see, won't we? Wait till we watch Congress vote. I think wait till you see what I propose, wait till you see how Congress disposes.
The people I talked to a lot of people before coming down here, all said to me the same thing. They want more than anything else to get their marching orders. And they want to know most of all that you're just going to tell it to them straight, and particularly on taxes. Will there be a middle-class tax cut in your first year? And are there going to be increases such as gas tax or maybe a value-added tax?
I'm going to give it to them straight in the inaugural and the State of the Union address. But I don't want to give those talks today. I think that's what they all tell me, too. The American people know, I think overwhelmingly they know, that we've got to get control of the deficit. We've got to get control of health care costs. We have to increase investment so that we'll have jobs and incomes so that we can compete. So I'm doing the best I can with the facts I have now to make those decisions. And that's what I'm doing during this, when these interviews are over, that I have to do for the inaugural.
You're making me feel unpatriotic.
I don't want you to feel
holding
unpatriotic.
You here.
No, I don't mean it that way. But I mean, I have a few more days, and I've already had several meetings, as you know, about these matters. And they end with my giving a set of questions to the people who are working with me, and they come back with the answers, and we're working through to decisions. And so I'll be ready. We're going to hit the ground running. We're going to be aggressive. There's going to be a lot to do. And I think the American people will at least know that I'm doing that. I'm going to be straight with them and give them their marching orders.
Including gas taxes and any additional taxes.
Including whatever it is I say then. I'm not going to do it today.
Today, he will spend time here in his study writing his inaugural address, fighting his temptation to leaf through a favorite murder mystery, or through an Arkansas memory.
And I've been collecting some of these books since I was 9 years old. Like, this is my 8th grade civics book.
Can I see the handwriting?
See if my name's in it. Is this my copy? Yeah.
Oh, Billy Clinton.
My 19.
Mm-hmm. Hard to leave.
Yeah. I love this place. You know, I love the state. I love the city. This has been our home for 12 of the last 14 years. I loved my job. It is not easy for me to leave. I have deep roots here. But I don't think it's so bad for the American people to have a president who hates to leave his home. I think that's probably good.
What's the hardest part?
Giving up the easy access to my friends in my life and knowing that things here operate on a scale that is very human. You know, it's easy for me to go to my daughter's school and go to the plays. It's easy for me to go around the block and be with my friends on the weekend and play Trivial Pursuit or whatever. Just the whole thing, it's just difficult to leave.
What are you going to do on your last night in this house?
We haven't thought about that. I don't know.
This
You don't have
transition,
any
it's,
furniture left.
it's one foot in front of the other. Well, whatever we decide to do, we'll have a lot of room to do it in because there won't be any furniture left.
I heard that your daughter Chelsea could have done an extra credit report if you hadn't packed the encyclopedia. I mean, what kind of parents are these?
Well, we didn't know about the report till she showed up asking for the encyclopedia, so we made a quick trip to the library to try to get that for her.
There are no parents in this country that don't regard it as a kind of a sacred duty to do the best thing for a child. But the decision to put your daughter in a private school did reverberate throughout the country. Were the District of Columbia schools not good enough?
No, that's not what went on, actually. We gathered some information about a lot of schools, and we gave it to Chelsea. Several public schools, several private schools. She read it all and decided that of the private schools she liked, the one she wound up going to, said, well, the best, and she picked a public school that she quite liked.
It wasn't the schools so much. It was what kind of environment beyond the academic would be available for our daughter, who is not anybody else's child, and for whom we have the primary responsibility, given Bill's new position, to do what we think is best for her. And if Bill were going to Washington for any other position than the one he's in, I don't know what our decision would have been. But because he's going to be the president, with all that entails, and with the extraordinary pressures that all of us will feel to keep our lives together, and which Bill and I feel so strongly with respect to her, that she have a chance to have a life that is as normal as it can be, we had to make the decision we thought was best for her.
President Carter said he was very disappointed.
Well, this is a decision we had to make for our family and our daughter and what she needs at this point.
I think it is unlikely that there has ever been a president who had done more for public education than I have upon taking office. This decision was made because we are the parents of an only child who's about to be 13 years old, who has a life to live, and we thought, on balance, she could live her life better with this decision. I couldn't make it for any other American, not a former president or all the teachers I care so much about or anybody else. We had to make the decision just for our daughter.
To the parents of those 81,000 students in D.C. public schools who don't have vouchers that they can use, who can't send their kids to private schools, and who, in the meantime, while you're doing what you want to do for schools, still have their kids there, what do you say to them about the privileged possibility that you had?
That I did what I thought was best for my daughter. And I'm going to do the best I can for those kids and their parents. And I think I did the right thing. I think we did. We made the decision, the three of us, together.
One other question about the children in this country. You have been petitioned by children to stop eating that junk food. Now, what are you going to do about it?
I pretty much stopped. I don't eat much junk food.
I love McDonald's.
I did.
Sorry.
I guess,
Confession.
wait a minute, I don't
Does
necessarily...
this mean I have to sneak with my Big Mac?
No, I don't necessarily consider McDonald's junk food, you know. I eat at McDonald's and Burger King and these other fast food places. A lot of them have very nutritious food. They have chicken sandwiches, they have salads, they had all kinds of things to say, you know. I don't plead guilty to that, but I did eat a lot of sort of snack food during the campaign just because I was traveling around, and I've just gone cold turkey. I've quit.
Privacy. Word has it that you're already thinking about laying down some new rules about the right of the president and his wife and his family to privacy from the press. Word has it, too, you're plenty irritated lots of times by the lack of it down here. What do you think the rules should be?
I don't know. I'm not irritated at anybody. And I know that, the press takes the position that anytime I am outside, wherever I'm spending the night, they should be there at any time of the day or night because in case something happens to me or something. I understand all that. All I would ask everybody to remember is that people in public life are people, too. They have to have a chance to have their batteries recharged. They have to have a chance to have friends. They have to have a chance to think.
But I also think that having that life enables someone in an office as pressured as that to be a better president. I mean, you cannot strip away everything that made him the man he is and gives him the opportunity to think through things and to have some time alone and to be with people who are his friends and expect him to be able to be the kind of decision maker that I think the American people elected.
Are you scared ever?
Sure. I mean, I am. It is an extraordinary responsibility. And, there are personal issues about leaving your life and leaving your friends and losing your privacy and not knowing what's expected and wanting to do your best. And then there are the issues of the country.
Harry Truman had on his desk, "The buck stops here." Franklin Roosevelt apparently had in his office a little plaque that said, "Let unconquerable gladness dwell." What's going to be on your desk, or at least in your mind?
Don't stop thinking about tomorrow.
This weekend, the Clintons will head to Virginia and then Washington for the inauguration. The swearing-in is on Wednesday, and ABC will have live coverage of this brand new chapter in American life.